Hey folks, so I decided I'd go ahead and do a quick video here on how to replace the headlight, replace this headlight switch on, well in this particularly, of course, that'd be this 70 Chevelle, but this headlight switch will be the same on pretty much all A body cars, even some G body cars, especially from the 70s and even into the early 80s. Some vehicles even use the same switch, trucks included. And the procedure is going to be pretty much the same no matter the vehicle. So I'm not going to go step by step, but I am going to show you what you need to do in order to replace this switch. It's a little tricky, and when I was looking to try and figure out how to do it, there wasn't a lot of information online, a few quick descriptions, but after a little head scratching, I figured out it's really pretty easy, but take your time and you have a few steps you got to do. First thing, obviously the dash pad has to come out. Now on these A bodies, especially on the Chevelle, it's really not that hard. There are 4 screws across the top of the instrument cluster, and even over here, where is it? Yeah, there's even one here at the end, near the air conditioning vents or heater vents. You know, if you don't have AC, but either case, it's right here. The other 2 screws, you open up the glove box, and there's 2 screws up here. So 6 screws, and then the dash pad, you kind of pick it up and slide it out. There are clips on the bottom of the dash pad. Yeah, you kind of see them down there. So when you put it back on, you kind of slide those down, drop the front, and push it in. Ah! Sorry, I have a garage full of junk. Anyway, so that's getting the dash pad out. Not hard. And then getting the switch out. That is a little tricky, I will admit. Now, it's going to be hard for me to do, especially one-handed holding the camera, but I'll walk you through it. So what you'll need to do first, now in order to get the switch out, you can kind of see the switch, you know, right under there. Not that hard. So what you do is this plate right here. Okay, you see there's 5/16 screws. There's one there, and one right there. They're pretty easy to get to. These 2 you can kind of get with the screwdriver style Hicks, which I have, and then here a Cornish drive, the short extension. You can get to that one pretty easily. Take this plate out. That will save you a lot of heartache trying to contort your hands around this thing in order to get the switch out. Don't even bother with it. 3 screws, take that plate out. Super easy. Just don't drop the screws, because you know how it happens. They end up down the dash and you'll probably never find them again. If you're lucky, they'll go through the dash and go onto the floor, but you know how that works. Drop a socket in the engine bay and you never find it again. So take that panel out. Now to take the switch out itself, you have to pull the switch out. So your headlights will be on the whole time this is happening. And then get yourself a long, thin, flathead screwdriver. And again, it's a 2-hand operation, but I'm just going to show you how to do it. So you reach in here and you can kind of pry up against this plate here. And as you come around, and it's going to be hard to see because the camera's not going to want to focus, but there's a little button. See that? Kind of wiggling around. It's not focusing. Anyway, and you have to have this light switch all the way out. So then 2-handed, you kind of pry against this and push this button down. And it'll take a little practice, but you'll get it. And as you're pushing this down with one hand, you pull this button out with the other. And just be patient, and a little gentle tugging. You don't have to pull it very hard, but a little gentle pressure on the switch while you're pushing the button with that screwdriver, and that lever will pop right out. So once you take the lever out, it's going to be really hard to see. In here, there's a black screw in here, and there's a couple of notches. Yeah, you can kind of see the notches. So it's pretty wide. Now, they make a special tool, it costs like $8, it's stupid, in order to grab these 2 notches in order to turn it out. Completely unnecessary. So you just get now a big flathead screwdriver. The bigger the better. This big old stubby one was plenty. I've already changed the switch out, by the way. I'm just kind of showing you how I did it. And you just get that on one of those slots on one side or the other. Okay, because that nut is not on that tight. It doesn't have to be super tight. It just has to be good and snug. Because there is a grounding ring. I should go turn my headlights off. So there is a grounding ring on the inside here, which you're not going to be able to see probably at all. No, not really. But there is a grounding ring that goes between the headlight switch and the dashboard to help ground the case on the switch. You got to be sure that's back on when you put the switch back in, by the way. So in any case, it only has to be hard enough or tight enough to make sure all that's nice and snug and that the switch doesn't move. But anyway, you just get this into one of those slots in a gentle turn and it should start loosening up, and not just twisting on axis, but kind of turning and swinging around, kind of following the screw. And once you get that started, you can take it off with your fingers pretty easily. And then again, with this out of the way, this plate out of the way, which I did, it was a whole lot easier. So then, yeah, once the switch is out, pull the electrical connector off. It's all one connector, pops off, no problem. And installation is simply the reverse of the removal. So again, be sure that grounding ring is on there. Get that nut nice and tight, and then when you go to push that knob back in, just shove it in. It'll lock itself back in the internal clip, and you're good to go. And then, of course, put the plate back on, dash pad back on, and put your screws back in. Oh, and of course, you mentioned, although it'd be pretty obvious, I mean, before you can take the dash pad out, you have to take off the A-pillar trim, but that's just 2 screws. I completely forgot about that because this A-pillar trim hasn't been on here in a long time. And so I've been driving around without that dash, but without the A-pillar trim. So I'm used to not even having it on there while I'm driving it. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully that'll provide some help. Because like I said, when I was looking to try and double check that, I mean, I'm pretty good working on cars, but there's almost always some kind of tip or trick or things to do it right so you don't break stuff. And I could not find that online. Hopefully maybe this video will end up being the go-to for folks. But yeah, it end to end, yeah, getting those screws out, dash off, switch replaced, and then of course now I have to put the rest of it back together. Really should only take you about 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, depending on how much wrestling you might have to do with the dash cap, because mine's been on and off a fair bit. But if yours hasn't been off in God knows how many years, it might be stuck on pretty good. But just be gentle with it, no reason to break it. Because believe it or not, this is my dash pad, and this is original to the car. I mean, 50-year-old dash pad, there's not a crack in it. So that tells you that it is possible to do this without damaging it. This thing is still practically factory fresh. I'm super lucky with that, I know. So I'm trying to think if there's anything I forgot, but I don't think so. And anyway, if you saw my previous videos about this car and I traced down the wiring for the dome light wasn't turning off, and I traced the wiring back to a bad headlight switch. Turns out it's exactly what it was. I replaced the headlight switch. Now the dome light works perfectly with both doors and with the switch on the headlight switch by rotating. And so that's it. Well, best of luck in y'all restorations. Have a good one.